All right, today we're going to be talking about Unit 5, Day 2. We're going to be talking about congruent figures. So congruent means of the same size, same shape. We're talking that these congruent figures are the same size and, yes, the same shape. So if we're talking about triangles, they're going to have 6 corresponding parts if they're congruent. 3 angles, 3 sides. Quadrilaterals, on the other hand, are going to have 8 parts because quadrilaterals have 4 sides and 4 angles that we can talk about. Okay. When you name congruent polygons, you must list the corresponding parts in the same order. Don't know how that one got there. It should be parts. So if we're looking at example 1, it has these quadrilaterals, W, X, Y, Z, and J, K, L, M. Well, we said that you must list the corresponding parts in the same order. So I know that W must be congruent to J because they're both first in the order listed. That's going to be an angle. If we look over here, W and J are angles. So down here in angles, I'm going to say that angle W is congruent to angle J. Okay, and I can keep going down the list, right? The next one is X. That's going to be congruent to whatever's second in the other one, which is K. Go to my third letter, Y. That's angle Y. That's going to be congruent to whatever the third letter in my second figure is. That's L. And then fourth, I have angle Z. It's congruent to angle M, because those are both listed last. Okay, that order matters. It tells us something about the two figures, which things are congruent to each other. Now we're going to congruent sides. I have 2 options I can do with this. I could look at my figure and be like, well, WZ is a side. I know that W is congruent to J, and I know that Z is congruent to M. So WZ will be congruent to those 2 letters that they're congruent with. WZ is going to be M and J. Also notice that WZ was the first and the last, right? And M and J are the first and the last here. Could look at another side. I could look at the first 2 letters, WX, which is going to be this side right here. So I could do that first thing and look, okay, WX, what are the 2 letters that are congruent to WX? That's going to be that side. Or I could think, well, WX is first in my order here. So JK, oops, let me switch colors. JK must be the side that's also, those are the first 2 letters. WX to JK. And no, I'm not kidding about that. All right, now I could go pick the next 2 letters. I used WX. What about XY? Or again, I could go to my diagram and look at, well, my next side is XY. X is congruent. Let's erase these. And I can look at my congruencies. I know that X is congruent to K and Y is congruent to L. So if I'm talking about XY, I know that we must also be talking about KL. Also, XY appears second and third. KL appear second and third. So next I can move on to third and fourth. The next 2 letters next to each other. 3 and 4, 3 and 4. YZ is congruent to LM. So both ways work. Whatever you like most, you can do for sure. Some might like the picture more and going back to our angles that are congruent. Some might just see this pattern over here. Notice the first one I did was the first and the last. So if we went first, second, second, third, third, fourth, the last one would be fourth, first. Right? So C is talking about, well, if there's a measure that's 89 degrees, we're going to call it L. Which other angle is going to be 89? So looking at my diagram, well, L is congruent to what? L is congruent to Y. So I know that if they're congruent, they must be the same size, same shape. So that means they have the same angle. This is going to be angle Y. All right, more of the same in example 2. Given, bike is congruent to path. The order matters. So it's asking for the congruent part of T. T comes third. So what comes third on the other side? K comes third. Angle K is congruent to angle T because they're both third. All right. THPA, that's just path in a different order, but we still know that the order matters. So if they give us THPA instead of PATH, I'm just going to go follow that order. T was third to begin with. Am I given? It's now first, but it used to be third. What used to be third on the other side? K. So we start with K, and then we're going to keep going through each letter. All right, my next one's H. Where was H over here? Last. The other thing's last letter was E. Now we're on to P. Third letter in my new one. I'm going back to see where P originally was. It was first, and its coassigning part is B. And last but not least, I have A. A is my last piece here. So I'm going to go back to see where A used to be. It used to be my second piece. They said it's congruent to I, because I is the second piece on the other side of my congruent statement. So this is going to be KEBI. We're going to use the given to kind of figure out, well, these are the things that were congruent to each other. They're in a different order now, but the thing that was congruent to our letter T is still K, just like it was in the beginning, just in a different order. Exercise 3. So I got that sun is congruent to ray. I got a triangle going on, but I don't have a picture for my triangle, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to draw it. It's always easier to draw. Okay. Oops. These are my vertices, so S, U, N. It does not matter what order I put it in, as long as I do the same order as on my second triangle. So I put the first one on the top. So R is my first one over here. That also has to be on the top. Okay. My second letter is U. I put U in the bottom right. My second letter on the other side is A. So A also has to be on the bottom right. This is just going to help me organize my thoughts. I know that the tops are going to be congruent to each other, and each bottom right is going to be congruent to each other. My last one's N and Y. N is last, Y is last. I'm going to put them in the same spot. N's in the bottom left, Y is going to be in the bottom left. Now I can fill in my info. I know that UN is 25, so between U and N, that's 25. SU is 30, so between S and U is 30. Now I need to know what AY is. Well, I haven't filled anything on AY over here, but I know that these triangles are congruent. That was given to me, right? So congruent things have congruent corresponding parts. AY is this length down here, right? I labeled my triangle so the corresponding congruent part is in the same relative location. So AY is what we need, that bottom length, my bottom length over here, NU is 25. NU is congruent to YA. You look over here. NU or UN, 2 and 3. AY, 2 and 3. So those are corresponding congruent parts. So that also has to be 25. I could have also said that RA is 30. I know that too, because congruent corresponding parts. All right, now it's saying that angle A is 27. So over here, I'm going to throw in 27. Well, if A is 27, its congruent part is U. So U also has to be 27. N is 63. N was the last letter over here. Its corresponding part was Y. And because of how I made my picture, they're in the same spot. So I can say that that's also 63 because we know those are congruent. But it wants to know what S is. We don't know what R is or S is, but we have two angles inside my triangle. We know how to solve to get that last one. So we go 63 plus 27 plus S equals 180. All angles added together in a triangle are 180. This is going to be 90 plus S equals 180. Subtract 90 to get S by itself. We get that S equals 90. 90 degrees. All right, on to the next topic of the day. We don't need to go through and say that every single thing for every triangle is the same in order to prove that they're congruent. We can actually have a few shortcuts, only 3 parts that we need to know in most cases, except for this hypotenuse leg. That's going to be 2 parts. But everything else we need 3 pieces. So you can prove triangle is congruent without having to show that all the corresponding parts are congruent. And yay, because like, who wants to do all that work all the time, right? 6 things every time. I'd like to cut that in half to 3 if I can. So our first one we have is side, side, side postulate. So I got that one side is congruent to the other. Second side is congruent to another side of that triangle. And that third side is congruent to a third side of the other triangle. If all 3 sides are congruent with the other triangle, then it is going to be a congruent triangle. We're going to call that side, side, side. All 3 sides are the same in both triangles. Next, we have angle, side, angle. All right, so over here, notice that we have an angle. Those are congruent to each other. I got a side that it's congruent to each other. And then I got another angle. It's in the name. And they're all in a row, right? Angle, side, angle. They're all in a row. I'm not jumping places, but they're right next to each other, right? If I'm walking around this triangle, I'm going to hit this angle. Then I'm going to hit that tick mark. I'm going to hit this other angle, all in a row. That's angle, side, angle. I had nothing in between them, but angle, side, angle, I know those congruencies. That's one of our proofs. Next one we got is side, angle, side postulate. So again, if I'm walking around this triangle, I'm going to hit a congruent side. Right next to that congruent side is going to be a congruent angle. And right next to that congruent angle, I'm going to have another congruent side. This kind of looks like our hinge theorem, actually, right? Just got done talking about hinge theorem. I got the hinge theorem going on, except the angles wouldn't be the same, right? Hinge, we'd have different angles. But we have that included angle in between 2 congruent sides that we know. That is side, angle, side. So kind of like hinge, except, well, the angles are the same instead of comparing different angles. But the setup is very similar. That angle in question is going to be the included angle of 2 congruent sides. All right, angle, angle, side theorem. So we got an angle right here. And if we walk around our triangle, oops. Oh, let's walk around this way, actually. If I walk around my triangle, I'm going to hit an angle that corresponds with each other. I'm going to hit another angle that corresponds with each other right next to it. And then I'm going to be on that side. It's going to be that. Angle, angle, side. Or side, angle, angle. It doesn't matter. Last one we have hypotenuse leg. If we have a right triangle, and I know that the hypotenuse and the other hypotenuse are the same, the legs are also the same. That's hypotenuse leg. Those have to be congruent. That one's really nice. I only need to know 2 pieces of information. Well, 3 if you include the 90 degree. So let's take a look at a bunch of these and see if we can identify which of those congruency things, which of those triangle congruency proofs can be used for 2 triangles that we have given to us. So my first one is HJN. HJN is going to be congruent to another triangle maybe by a certain thing. So I'm going to first look for my corresponding parts. All right, H was first. Angle H has 1 arc on it. I know that the congruent angle to 1 arc is whatever else has 1 arc. That's R. So R is going to have to come first. Next, they talk about J. All right, J is right here. J is between, I don't have an angle marker, right? So now I'm going to look at what sides it's between. It's between the 2 tick mark and the 1 tick mark. So if I go to my other diagram, I need to find my 2 tick mark, my 1 tick mark, and see what's between it. That's going to be F. And then my last one's going to have to be D, right? D is between the 1 tick mark and no tick mark. So over here, what's between the 1 tick mark and no tick mark? We have N. N comes third up here. D is also between 1 tick mark and no tick mark. All right, so I got my corresponding parts. Now I have to think, okay, what is the theorem I can use that maybe will say that these are congruent? Well, I have an angle And then if I keep walking around my triangle, I'm going to hit a side that I know is congruent. And then I have another side. So if we look above, do we have anything talking about angle, side, side, or side, side angle? No, we don't. Actually, we can't even say that one out in class. So if you can't say it out loud in class, that is not a triangle congruent. Okay? So this one's actually not congruent. Not enough info. It could be congruent, I guess. I just need to know more information. All right, looking at B. Again, EFP is what's given to me, order matters. So I need to find whatever angle corresponds with E and EFP. So the triangle they give me is this purple triangle, EFP. Angle E has one arc on it. So I'm going to this other red triangle and finding whatever has one arc, and that's also E. Next, they talk about F. So I'm looking at F, and I notice that F doesn't have an angle marker on it. So that doesn't help me too much, but I also know it's between these guys. So notice we have a shared side, so shared sides are congruent to itself. That's the reflexive property. So F is between the 2 tick mark and the no tick mark. So I'm going to my other triangle. So this one used to be purple. We'll make this one red again. I said we'll make this one red again. And I know that in my purple triangle, F is between the 2 tick mark and no tick mark. So my red triangle, what's between 2 tick marks and no tick marks? Well, no tick mark, 2 tick mark. Between them is F. That one's going to be F. And then last we have P. We know that P is between the no tick mark and the 1 tick mark. Over my red triangle, what's between the 1 tick mark and the no tick mark? Well, between that is R. Now I need to know, how did I know these things? Let's walk around our triangle again. Pick a spot. I have a side right here. Walk around my triangle. I'm going to walk this way because my next thing that I know that's congruent is over that way. So I have a side. And then if I keep walking, I hit the angle I know. And if I keep walking, I hit another side. Side, angle, side, in the way we walked. That's one of our proofs. Look at C. KOM. So again, K doesn't have an angle marker in this KOM triangle. I see a shared length over here, so I'm going to put 2 tick marks on there. Oh, I already have 2 tick marks. So what's that mean? I need 3 tick marks, yeah. So that's not congruent to the thing, so 2 tick marks is congruent to itself. So I'm going to have 3 for this one. So K is between 3 and 2. Now I'm going to my other triangle, I'm going to make it red again. What is between 3 and 2 tick marks? What angle? That's going to be O. So my first letter here needs to be O. O in my original was between 1 and 3 tick marks. See that 1 and that 3 right there? O's over here. Going to my other triangle, what's between 1 and 3? 3 over here, 1 over here. That's going to be K. And last we have M. M is between 2 and 1. I go to my other triangle, what's between 2 and 1? That is L. We have OKL for this one. So again, let's walk around my triangle, pick one of my congruent spots I know. Let's start with the 1 tick mark, and I'm going to just walk around my triangle. So I got a side that's congruent. Keep walking. I hit another side. And then I hit another side. So we must know that by side, side, side. All right, WYZ is congruent to, well, W has 1 arc, so I'm going to look for the other triangle, the angle with 1 arc, that's X. All right, Y comes next. Well, again, that's that shared side. I'm going to put 2 tick marks there. Y is between 2 tick marks and no tick marks. So I'm looking for the angle that's between 2 tick marks and no tick marks. My other triangle, that's going to be Y. And last but not least, I'm looking at Z. Z in my first triangle right here is between the 1 tick mark and the no tick mark. So what's between 1 tick mark and no tick mark here? Well, that is Z again. So I need x, y, z instead of w, y, z. Let's walk around our triangle again. Let's see if we can figure out what thing we use. So I'm going to start at one of my congruent segments. Let's go right here. Alrighty. So I have an angle that I started at. Walking, I'm hitting the side that's congruent. Walking, this is step 2. I've not hit an angle yet, but I hit another side. So angle, side. Oh, I can't spell that on my paper. That would get me in trouble. So we must not have enough information. Don't put that word down on your paper. You will get in trouble and not get the question right. All in the same writing. So might as well just not even do it. Okay. Next one. I got NAP. NAP. N is between 1 and 2 tick marks, right? 1 tick mark, 2 tick marks. N's in between it, so let's look. 1 tick mark, 2 tick marks, C is between it. Next letter we got is A. A is between 1 tick mark and 3 tick marks. So 1 tick mark, 3 tick marks. That's L. And our last guy we have is P. P is between 3 and 2 tick marks. So let's look 3 and 2. I already got 3 circled. So let's go to 2. And between it is K. COK is going to be this one. So let's walk around our triangle to see what theorem we would have to use. Pick one of your things you know is congruent. Let's start with this 1 tick mark. I know that's a side that's congruent. Nope, didn't know an angle is congruent, so let's keep going. Hit another side, no angle, and I hit another side. Back to where I started. That's side. All right, next one. PFT. P is between no tick mark and 1 tick mark. So what's between no tick mark and 1 tick mark? That is G. F is between 2 tick marks and no tick marks. What else is between 2 tick marks and no tick marks? That is S. And T, well, T is right in the middle. I got a vertical angles going on here, so T is going to be congruent to T by the vertical angle. All right. Now let's walk. Let's pick somewhere that we know at the beginning of a little. Sorry, I misspoke. Let's pick something we know that's congruent. I see that I got 3 congruent things in a row, so let's start the beginning of all that at a side. Going around, I hit an angle, and keep going around. The adjacent thing is a side. Side, angle, side. They're all adjacent to each other. I wouldn't want to go the other way around the triangle, though, because there's nothing here. There's nothing adjacent. I have to skip a whole side to get back over there. You would still end up with side, angle, but it just doesn't flow right. It doesn't feel right. And it could mess you up sometimes. So try to find where they are in a row and walk that way. All right, G, J, K, L. J, oh, nice, it has an arc for me. So what else has one arc? That is E. K has no arcs. The only thing that doesn't have another arc, or has no arcs in the other triangle, is going to be F. And L has 2 tick marks, so D also has 2 tick marks. Those are corresponding. That one was kind of nice and easy. Let's walk around our triangle again. Let's start over at this angle right here. Angle. Right next to it, I have a side. And right next to it, I have an angle that I know is congruent as well. Angle, side, angle. That's one of our things. Well, hold on. Let's look at this triangle. If I walk on this triangle, I have a side. If I walk, I have an angle. If I walk, I have another angle. Wait a minute. This isn't lining up. How come in my first triangle, I have all of them in a row? See how that tick mark's in between those 2 angles that are marked? There a tick mark in between the 2 angles marked here? No. So yeah, I have one of the same side, but that side's not between my angles. If I were to walk on this triangle right here, I could get if I walk on this triangle, I get some kind of different side angle instead of angle side angle. That's weird. Those don't even match up. We don't have enough info. it doesn't match up, then it can't be the same thing. All right. I think that is enough of those. I think we're starting to get the idea. H, I, J, K, and L, more of the same stuff, right? We're just going to find out which corresponds to what based off of angles and sides, all right? They don't give you an arc, like see in example I here. J and N match up because they have arcs, but if they don't have arcs, remember, we can look at its sides next to it. K is next to one tick mark and no tick marks. Over here, one tick mark and no tick marks. I guess this also has no tick marks, but it's also labeled by that angle arc. The other one doesn't. So that one has to be going with M. Start. And then if we wanted to prove the congruencies, again, we would just kind of go around our triangle and see what in a row is happening. So this would be a vertical angle in both. So if I walk around my triangle, starting somewhere, I have a side, walk and hit an angle, walk and hit another angle. This is side angle. But remember, you got to make sure you can do it in both. Something to be aware of also in J. J, I have these arrows right here. That means these lines are parallel. Okay, we're going to bring back some Unit 3 stuff going on. If these are parallel, I might have a transversal going through my parallel lines. If that's the case, I can use one of my transversal rules. I know that if the lines are parallel that the transversal goes through, that my alternate interior angles are congruent. Right, that was one of those things we said. We also said corresponding angles are congruent, same side interior supplementary, and alternate exterior angles are congruent. But here, we're really only going to use the alternate interior. That's going to give me those angles being congruent. I also have the vertical angles going on here again. That's something we need to be able to look out for. I also have this side that's given to me. So here, if I walk around my triangle, start on my side, I have a side, an angle, and another angle. This is side, angle, 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 side. If I go around the second triangle, I'd get the same thing. Side, angle, angle. There's a couple things to be aware of. All right, I hope this was helpful, and good luck on your practice.